Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of our STX Weekly, episode 50, whichever way you're looking at this. We'll come back after a break of a couple of weeks, trying to rejig our format a little bit. And we've made a couple of executive decisions. This is the last episode that we're going to be doing live. We've obviously come out at a new time as well. We're now going to be publishing episodes at Friday at 12 p.m. This is the results of the vote that we conducted. A lot of you participated. And if you didn't like the time, you can always watch it at the time that you originally wanted to, just a bit later than it is published. So we are coming in at a new time, Friday at noon. So hopefully at the end of your work week, you want to take a little bit of a break and watch a 10-minute video about the top news from sports tech from the week. You can do it with lunch on a Friday. We are no longer going to do it live. This is the last episode I'm going to do live. Yeah, we miss a bit of the interaction that we get from you guys, but I think we can add a lot more in production value, include more videos, make it a bit more smooth, make it a bit more jazzy, and video quality as well. I've got a new camera. Maybe you can see me a bit better. So small things like that. We're trying to make some changes to make this show a bit more enjoyable. And like I said, tighten the time. We started with a half an hour show. I brought it down to 15 to 20 minutes. Now I'm looking at doing a tight 10 to 12 minute show brought to you every week. All right. With that said, I'm going to jump into our top stories of the week. Starting with funding news, as always, we have top deals of the week, which begins with a basketball company called Hoop. That is how you pronounce HWPE. They have raised 11 million from a series of really good investors. Protagonist VC, Marvin Ventures, Milwaukee Bucks owner, Keith Mardak, TRI Ventures, and Quan VC. There is also Reform Ventures, which is by NBA player Thaddeus Young. Sorry, Thaddeus, if I pronounced it wrong, your name incorrectly. What do Hoop do? I'm going to play a short video for you. You can see this working smoothly. It's not coming out so well. See, these are the reasons that we're going to go into a recorded format. But basically, it's a smart basketball hoop. Yeah, I think the video is playing now. It's a smart basketball hoop that keeps score. It's an interactive LED display that keeps score. You can play videos, and you can also basically play a game against somebody else in a different part of the world, which is pretty interesting. They also have recently started installing in gyms as well, which is where I guess a lot of this 11 million will go. All right, that is Hoop. Next up is Ludex. Ludex is a sports trading card scanning and price guide company. They raised 8 million. Investors include Brian Ulaka. I have no idea who that is. And what do they want to use this money for? To accelerate growth and expand operations, of course. What is Ludex? Quick look at their website. Yeah, changing the game for trading card collectors. They don't use the words Web3 anywhere, which I find quite interesting. I don't see that. I didn't see that anywhere on the website, but they are definitely feeding into the collectibles market, which is a fast-growing segment, of course, within not just sports tech. It's growing everywhere. We had a interview with Courtside Ventures founder Vasu Kulkarni a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how much they're investing in collectibles, not just in sports, whether it's trading cards, watches, bags, shoes, the whole lot. That as a segment is super niche, super premium, with really high value goods that are being transacted. So anything which feeds into this ecosystem is of interest to them and perhaps of interest to the wider community as well. So next generation trading card collecting, that is Ludex. Is MOGL. What does MOGL do? Well, MOGL is a name, image, likeness software provider. Yeah, what does that mean? It maintains it, explains it over here. They have a database of athletes and brand opportunities, trying to connect brands and athletes. We've seen a few of these kind of marketplaces for name, image, likeness, especially for the NCAA or college athletics. So athletes can get affiliated to brands, so that they can basically use their name, image, likeness to promote the brand's goods or services. And this platform, MOGL, will get a cut, a 20% service charge for that transaction. Yeah, they have raised 2.6 million, bringing their total funding to 5.5 million. All right, so that is the start with all our funding news. Where are we going next? We're going to a report, actually. Well, I wanted to start with this story, which was the Atlanta Hawks announced a $15 million startup fund. And they are especially focused on ethnic minority or female leadership. So if you're a startup founder who is, let's say, underrepresented in the startup community, you feel maybe the Atlanta Hawks Ventures is where you want to be applying. Uh, they are looking to basically for applications that will benefit the franchise, the Atlanta Hawks. So you can think of typically anything which is in player performance, on maybe less so because usually the NBA teams are well covered in that department, or more likely it's more focused on fan-facing solutions, or which can enhance the fan experience. Also talks about the State Farm Arena, so anything which helps the stadium experience as well, maybe on the back end operationally or on the front end for fans. Yeah, so a couple of comments from them. This is an endeavor that our ownership group is extremely passionate about. We want to be able to invest and work with the significant untapped potential of minority and women-led entrepreneurs. Atlanta, of course, is a city led by with a large population of, let's say, blacks, Hispanics, and different communities, people of color. I don't know if that's the right term. All right, that is the Atlanta Hawks fund. I want to also talk about this report, which was published by, speaking of funds, I wanted to talk about this report published by our friends at Drakestar, which mentioned that 90 billion in funding in acquisition deals happened in 22 and 23. And we've also seen a whole host of funds come into the space. Yeah, this is the report. It talks about over 78 billion in acquisitions and about 10 billion which came from investment deals, which is what our report also says. So similar numbers in the Drakestar report. Most of that money was in 70 billion came from the Microsoft acquisition of Activision, which we wouldn't normally consider sports tech. That's more gaming, but I understand why Drakestar has included it. Here's a link to the report, Drakestar Global Sports Tech Report. Recommend you give it a check out if you are interested in the topic. All right, so that is that story. Up. Story from my hometown. Quite happy about this one. Royal Challengers Bangalore, which is where, of course, for those of you who might know, the Sports Tech X is also based. They announced Innovation Lab to shape the future of sports in India. It says this is in partnership with Leaders Group. Leaders Group, who are the parent company of publications like Sport Techie, Sports Business Journal. You might be familiar with those. So they've come in and they, of course, have a couple of huge events that they do in the year, one in London and Abu Dhabi. So they've partnered with RCB to launch the RCB Innovation Lab. The lab will focus on generating ideas, methodologies, and products that drive performance and excellence both on and off the field. Pretty generic statement. But again, when you think of these broad statements, you can imagine they'll focus on player performance, fan experience, and of course, any sort of B2B play to enhance operations, stadium, broadcasting, whatever it may be. So yeah, the article goes on to say RCB has partnered with Leaders, which is organization of global sports communities. And they're also doing a couple of, this is the interesting one, they're also venturing into sports ed tech and research and development for performance enhancement, and also setting up an accelerator program with partnerships with sports and health tech accelerators. There are a few that we know. So nice to see another venture coming up in India. So India is generally taking sports tech increasingly seriously, which is, for me, a very exciting thing. All right, next up, story on FIBA, which has a of an LED court. This is quite a nice story. For the FIBA Under 19 Women's Basketball World Cup, they will be played on an ASB, that's a service provider, their glass floor. Yeah, this is actually it's a nice article, and I read a couple of stories on this. There were a few concerns with playing on a glass floor. One, how it would impact the broadcasting feed, because you don't want reflection. Maybe the panels create a problem with the cameras. That they believe is not an issue with providing a matte finish on the floor. Number one. Number two, if the floor might get or the panels might get heated up, causing discomfort for the players. That also is a problem that's been solved. Apparently, it is between 5 to 10 degrees warmer than hard courts. So maybe according to this report, it says not significant. I wonder how the players feel about that. Sorry. And I think there was one more issue which I saw. Again, playing, you can see essentially because it's an LED court, everything is possible, right? You can do so much animation. You can, as you can see from the screen, there is so much interaction and make it visually interesting for the fan viewing the game in stadium and at home. Things that the court providers can do. So, in fact, one really nice use case was that, say a team is playing away from home, the home arena can become a huge watch party. So you can just have the game playing on the floor of the basketball court and host a watch party for people who want to experience the game in stadia, which is a really interesting business opportunity because it allows your home stadium to be alive even on away game days. Interesting stuff. So this could work obviously for basketball. FIBA has been trialing. This company's been trialing it with the German Bundesliga for a while across divisions, and now a major international competition like the FIBA Under 19 World Cup is going to trial this glass LED court. All right, that is second last story. And my top story of the week: Apple. Look at these guys getting more interested in sports streaming. They're apparently readying a bid for the Premier League and also the English Football League. So not just the Premiership, but the Championship and the tiers below the Premiership. So they could become a major broadcaster as the UK rights go up for grabs. This Sports Pro Media article says this is likely from the season after next. So I believe it's for 25, 26. Yeah, because the current contract with Sky Sports BT and Amazon runs through to 24-25. But Apple, who bid for the NFL Sunday Pass, didn't get it. They have, of course, spent a lot of money going with the MLS. They do have a few broadcasting rights for a few games with the MLB. Now making the transition to come into Europe. So interesting piece of news, and let's see how this develops, because all it does is that it drives the price of rights up further, surely. So the Premier League and other leagues across Europe, because I'm sure La Liga, Serie A, they'll all be interested in going to Apple and saying, hey, maybe the Premier League is a bit expensive. Why don't you come and speak to us and bring our product to not just the American audience, but of course, all over the world, where Apple is a still a dominant player in the smartphone market. The other thing that this article talks about, which is an interesting piece, is the abolishment of the 3 p.m. blackout, which has, of course, been in effect since the start of the Premiership. I think before that even. So no games at 3 p.m. on a Saturday are ever shown within England. Of course, it's shown all over the world. And with this, with new packages, with more digital rights coming in, maybe that blackout will be abolished, because most of the big teams, hardly any big teams ever play at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. Like most games for all the big, let's say big six, United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs, and Liverpool, they all happen at different staggered times across the weekend. So maybe this is another step to abolish that timing. But let's see how Apple's entering the race for Premier League rights affects the bidding going forward. All right, that is it for me for this week. We've gone a little beyond 10 minutes, but I took the time to make the introduction to tell you guys that this is the last episode that we'll be doing live, but we're going to be sticking to this time, 12 p.m. on a Friday. As always, if you enjoy the content, please tag somebody, share it with people to help us reach a new, wider audience. And yeah, hope to see you guys soon. And that is next week at this time. 12 p.m. on a Friday. See you then.